It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Kiera Dent. She is the owner and founder of Dental Placement Pros and Kiera's Dental Consulting. She is a partner in Zen Dental Supplies. She consults in 50 client offices nationwide, recruits for over 60 dental offices nationwide, owns dental offices, and has decided that she would find a way to positively change the world of dentistry and constantly pushes herself to hold true to this vision. Kiera has been featured on podcasts including Dentalprenuer podcast with my buddy Mark Costas, The Thriving Dentist with Gary Takacs, Start Your Own Dental Practice with Jonathan Vanhorn, Shared Practices with Richard Lowe, and Growing Dentist with Naren Arulrajeh. How do you say his last name?
I think you got it. Let's go with that. That feels good.
Her recruiting company is For Purpose and sponsored part of the Midwestern University Glendale, Arizona's College of Dental Medicine's mission trip to Tonga, along with sponsoring a student to continue to grow and impact the world of dentistry by providing scholarships to up-and-coming students. Furthermore, Kiera is passionate about helping new grads and soon-to-be grads know how to find jobs in private practice, how to buy great practices, and give those new dentists the resources needed to be successful early on. She has also partnered with a very successful female dentist, and they have created an online Women in Dentistry community to help mentor female dentists as students, brand new grads, and those in associateships are wanting to transition to ownership. When she isn't working, Kiera loves to travel. In 2017 alone, she visited all 50 U.S. states, traveled to 6 countries, and ate some incredibly good food while she travels. She loves to meet new people, relishes in new cultures, and finds joy in seeing the world through new perspectives. She's an avid runner and will always say yes to cotton candy, ice cream, and a day trip to the beach. Did you know cotton candy was invented by a dentist?
I did not know that, but it works.
And you know what it was called? It was first called fairy floss. Yeah, it was called. I posted. If you go on Dental Town, one of the categories dental history, and or if you just go to Dental Town, go to the search and type in cotton candy. But it's pretty neat. He patented it, and it was fairy floss, and then known to be cotton candy. But your last name is Dent, so you were destined to be a dentist. I mean, is that just an abbreviation for dentist or dentistry?
One would think, right? My husband, I tried to get him to be a dentist because his name's Jason Dent, and Jason means healer, and dent is tooth, obviously. So I'm like, you were destined to be a dentist, and he is actually a pharmacist. So, it all just worked out. I think it'd be a little crazy if both of us were in dentistry. So
well, he is in dentistry because I don't think we could do our job without the pharmacological industry. I mean, without the antibiotics and the vaccines. I mean, gosh, oral cancer, the number one way to prevent oral cancer is the HPV vaccine, and it still really makes me crazy when I'm a dentist with 9 years of college and I can't give the HPV vaccine in Arizona. But if I walk over to Walgreens, a farm tech with 9 months of school can give the HPV vaccine. Same thing with the flu shot. I mean, you see Grandpa on a cleaning, and if he doesn't come back in 6 months and he's dead, the top would be heart attack, cancer, and usually the flu is in the top 5 or 10 each year. It kills 8,000 to 35,000 a year, and this is going to be a bad year. The last year we were close to 35,000 was about 2009, and they're saying this year is going to be a doozy too. And my hygienist with 4 years of college can't give a flu shot. I can't give a flu shot as a doctor in dental surgery. But if I go to Walgreens, the farm tech, who couldn't tell me the 12 cranial nerves, can give me a flu shot. But it's kind of crazy.
It works.
So you're a woman. So my first question to you is, when I was graduated 30 years ago, my classmate was Fred Flintstone and Barney Rubble. And
totally, they're the best I've heard. Heard they're fantastic.
They were, and Dino was my dental assistant. And it was considered a man's profession. And now you go into any dental school in the United States, it's half women. What do you think? How do you think that's gonna change dentistry? Because some people think that the women don't want to be owners; they're gonna be moms, and they're just gonna want to work at Heartland and Aspen and just do an 8 to 5 so they can go home and be Mr. Mom. But a lot of other people say, you know what? If you want to be a super mom, the way to do it is to own your own business. Because if your girl's got to play tomorrow at the school at 1 o'clock and you just want to cancel your afternoon, you can do it because you're owner. So what if you were going to be a super mom and you were going to try to be the dentist, the spouse, and the mom? Do you think that'd be better being an employee, an associate somewhere, or owning your own business?
So it's a super good question. I get asked it all the time because I'm not a dentist. I do a lot, but I'm not a dentist. But I do coach a lot of female dentists. And this is something that really does come up all the time. And I think it's the work-life balance. It depends on what your goals and aspirations are. But definitely I think a lot of females, I think it's changing as we evolve. But a lot of them are scared of ownership because they think that they're so much more involved and they think the path of associateship will be easier and give them the lifestyle that they want. And that is a myth that I am actively trying to debunk because I feel like really you can do it all. And the female dentist that I'm partnered with, she is a mom and she is that super mom. And really her being a practice owner gives her the flexibility to have the life she wants to have. But like we said, that's not the life for everyone. And so I really think it just depends on as a female, what your goals and aspirations are, but don't be afraid of practice ownership because it really can give you so much more than I think a lot of people are willing to accept.
And you know this Me Too movement that you're seeing in all the news, all these comedians, actors, Harvey Weinstein. We've had a senator resign. Um, when you travel around the world, I mean, like the women in Saudi Arabia just got the right to drive a car.
Right.
In Iran, right now, they're sentencing. In the last week, they sentenced several girls to 10 years in prison for taking off their head covering. But you still see those are the extreme other end. But in the United States, I still see women all the time, and I've had them cry and bawl in my home because they own a practice here in town and they're doing $1 million and taking home 240, and their husband makes
Right.
75,000, but he just got a promotion to make 80,000. He's telling her, pack up, we're moving town. And
Right.
she's like, I own my land and building and my clients. And so she has to pick, do I destroy the family because my husband is a Neanderthal? Or do I keep the family together? And she chose to keep the family together. And I know so many women dentists and women and male dentists married where the woman will tell me like it's crazy. I mean, we both work 8 to 5 at the office. When we come home, guess who does all the cooking, cleaning, the homework,
Totally.
all the school
Yeah.
stuff? So we still live in an extremely culturally sexist society.
Hmm.
And it's and what people don't talk about is it's natural because when you look at all the great apes, humans, gorillas, chimpanzees, orangutans, only bonobos is a matriarch society. All the other ones are patriarchs. So they're genetically, this is what they think is right. Whereas like a
Right.
blue whale is the biggest mammal that ever lived on Earth, is bigger than any dinosaurs. And the little girl, it's a matriarch society. So the little girls swim down the middle, and the big males twice the size are on the
Hmm.
outside. So I don't. I think if I was, I think they should fund a lot more research on bonobos to find out how our cousins deal with the matriarch society, and I think that would make us understand our patriarch society. But it's
Right.
tough. It is just
It
tough.
is. And it's hard because I go into offices, I coach a lot of male and female dentists, and I'm realizing like the reason we even came up with Women Dentists Connect was because a lot of women struggle with like how do they even talk to their employees? How do they talk to their team members and not come across as this raging jerk of a boss? But yet if their male dentist would say the exact same thing, it's totally normal. And like you said, what do they do? Do they pack up or are they equal partners with their spouses? And some people will say, Kiera, you're kind of being sexist in this, but really it's the reality of that's not for everyone, but that's also a very real reality for a lot of people, and it does need to be addressed. I think women are coming in a lot stronger, but they're having to learn how, and that's why we're coaching a lot of them, and we're doing it female to female, because for me to tell you, hey, you're being a raging crazy lady, you need to calm it down, as opposed to a man coming in and saying the same thing, or just like different ways to talk to their teams. And when you get all those women together, there's a lot of estrogen sometimes, and there's a lot of craziness that I don't think male dentists understand as much. So it's this weird world, but yet I'm so proud of the women who are coming in because I think that they're impacting and they've got this empathy and they've got different attributes that their male dentists don't necessarily possess. So I think it's a really good balance, and I'm really happy that the female dentists are coming in. And I think the last study I saw said almost 60% of classes now graduating were female. So there is that transition where there is actually more female coming out than there are males.
Well, do you know why I love female dentists the most? And you know why I try to pick all my doctors and physicians as females? Because when you travel around the world, and I've lectured to dentists in 50 countries, it was all male dominated in the 20 richest countries because men always show up where the money is. But when you go
Right.
into a rich country like America, say there's no money in teaching. So what percent? Google what percent of teachers in America are women. It's all women because men show up where there's money. So when you go to countries where there's no money in dentistry, it's all women. And this one lady made me cry. In it was in Kathmandu, Nepal, and I was looking at her office and what 76% of teachers are women. They're always there for
That's
the right
crazy.
reasons. But anyway, so she was showing me her office. She had 5 chairs. She had 3 employees. She's running this practice, and I just said, "Well, in U.S. dollars, do you know the conversion from U.S. dollars to your currency?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, approximately how much money do you make a month net?" And she goes, "Oh," she goes, "I'm so lucky because my husband has a really good job, but my office loses $50 US a month." So she works 5 days a week to lose $50, and
Crazy.
$50 in Kathmandu, Nepal would take your family tree to the nicest restaurant. I mean, unbelievable.
It's
And
crazy.
I said, "Why do you do it?" And she goes, "Well, if and she goes, I always think about that." She goes, "But if I didn't do this, I don't know where all these people would go for care."
Right.
And then the men are always there in a 3-piece suit trying to tell a beautiful woman like you that you need bleaching, bonding veneers, and Botox, and they're trying to sell, sell, sell. And I mean, I inherently trust women more than men. I think men are always trying to
Sure.
sell you something, and I think women are hardwired at birth with maternal instincts to have more empathy and sympathy. And with the staff, the women dentists have to understand that those assistants were hardwired at birth to be in a paternal tribe. And when the 400-pound gorilla beats his chest and says, "Give me coffee," they just run. And then they grew up at a house with their dad sitting there watching sporting events all Saturday and Sunday and tells his honey, get me a beer. And she jumps to get him a beer in between doing laundry and dishes and vacuuming and all that. So it's a crazy society. But so
But I think it's transitioning too. I
oh,
really do.
absolutely.
Like I watch these female dentists come through, and even though that's been the trends and the statistics in the past, I feel like a lot of these millennials coming through, they're very intelligent, and I think it's been this transition of, women weren't working in the workforce for so long. It was very abnormal, and now they're coming in and they're being very strong. And I think that I'm watching as I consult. I work with Mark Costas in the Dental Success Institute. We see a lot of clients, and as I consult and we watch them, I feel like there is a change that's happening, and it's happening pretty quickly. But you're right, there's still a lot of those like deeply rooted planted seeds from so long ago that they're having to constantly work against changing.
Well, change is slow. You know what the biggest change for women in the workforce actually was, and my grandmother Mary traumatically told me this story several times. It was World War II. So World War II, 6 million boys were shipped overseas while you had to ramp
Right.
up all the industries. My grandmother Mary in Mary Wilcox in Parsons, Kansas, the sheriff showed up at her door, and she had 3 kids, my mom being one of them. And she said, "You are assigned a job. You're going to work at the ammunition factory." And she said, "No, I'm a stay home mom. I don't work. My husband's a butcher." And she goes, "I'm not asking if you want a job. You're going to this job Monday through Friday, or you're under arrest." And she had to go. She was scared. She had to go there, but it's a munitions factory, so she had to take off all of her clothes in this room with a bunch of women, which just mortified them all. I mean, it was just mind blowing because they couldn't carry in anything that makes a spark or shoes with a metal heel or anything, and then put on this uniform and then go make ammunition. And
Mm-hmm.
but the pay was mind blowing. I mean, she instantly was making more than her husband. So all these women in all these small villages and towns in America were forced to go to work. And then when the war was
Right.
over, they thought, I kind of like this $50 a week thing. I don't know if I'm so that was that World War II was the
It was a huge
transition.
change.
It was a huge change, and that was 1940, and this is 2018. That was 60 years ago. So it's
Mm-hmm.
slow generational thing. Um, I want to, I know dentists, and I get it. I'm a dentist. I mean, I'd rather pull 4 wisdom teeth than go play golf. I would rather reach. If someone came in swollen, in pain, and crying, I would rather do that than see any stupid movie at AMC. I
Right.
don't want to go shopping at the mall. I don't want to do any of that stuff. And dentists, they just want to do dentistry. And so I don't, to be a leader in dentistry, I don't have to try to egg them on to go learn how to do implants and bone grafting and Invisalign. Shit, that's what they dream about. The hard thing
Right.
for me to do is say, buddy, isn't it kind of weird that you could lecture all day on bone grafting, but you don't know what your overhead is, your return on equity, your return on asset, your supply costs, your labor costs. I mean, and you ask them any number like, well, what is your labor cost? They'll say 25%. I'll say, really? Does that include FICA matching, workers' comp, health
Mm-hmm.
insurance? I mean, so my job is to try to get people like you to come in the show and say, buddy, you can't be a great dentist if you don't have a great business. So some of them say, well, I don't want to do it. I know a lot of women dentists say, I don't want to do that. So they have their
Mm-hmm.
husband be the office manager. If they're a man, they have their wife be the office manager. And then a lot of dentists tell me they don't believe in office manager. And I'm like, well, do you believe in gravity or, what else do you not believe in? Is the earth
Right.
flat? What do you think what percent of dental offices do you think have office managers versus don't? And what's the pros and cons?
All right. This is a good one because you're gonna get me on a pretty good a pretty good spell.
I
But
want to hear your rant.
my rant, I feel like I would say in all the offices I'm in, because we also just launched another company for office managers solely for this purpose. Because I walk into offices and I'll say that probably 80% of the offices I'm in have a quote unquote office manager. However, I feel like office managers are not actually office managers. A lot of times it's the dentist being too controlling. They don't want to let go of it. So the office manager is more just a front desk personnel who's helping with the front office. And so it's really funny because I think this world of office management is so it's I think people don't even understand what it entails, what it means. It's just very abstract. And I was noticing over the past year, this is actually why I created another company. It's called Dental Masters, and it's for specifically for office managers because people don't even know what an office manager should do or what they should look like or what their responsibilities should be. And as I was paying attention, like I was a dental assistant before, and there's schooling for dental assistants, there's schooling for hygienists, there's schooling for dentists. There is nothing really for office management at all. There's nothing for front office. And I think that that's why so many dentists, whether you're male or female, it doesn't matter. That's why there's this obscurity of what does the front office, what does it even mean? What does it even entail? You don't learn it in dental school. I worked at Midwestern University for 3 years at their dental college. You don't learn about what the business aspect is. So I think it's so obscure. And that's why I think that there's really not office managers per se truly managing your practice in the bulk of the offices that I go into. Now, that's pretty bold to say, but it's because either the dentist is trying to control because they don't even know what to let go because they don't know what reports to run, or it's because office managers likewise don't know what reports they should be doing, what they should even be trying to manage. And so they're trying to fumble through this world of we don't even know what we should be doing or we shouldn't be doing. And I just think it's so obscure that no one really knows that whole front office area, and it gets really jumbled and really garbage. And that's why I think a lot of dentists are intimidated by that and they don't even want to do it. So they just hire somebody or they push it off because it's so far removed from them that they don't really know even how to help.
Well, like you kept saying, I'm controlling, and that's another thing that our schools need to, people have these thoughts and they don't know where they're coming from. Well, controlling is a huge built-in thing at birth because it has a lot to do with controlling your environment so that you survive and you survive long enough to reproduce and have offspring. I mean, that's a whole
Right.
genetic thing. Just like racism is actually tribal. I mean, people don't equate racism when they want U of A to beat ASU. They don't realize that that's a tribal instinct. When you see a female lion lose her tribe and she tries to enter another tribe of lions, they all look exactly the same, but they kill her or run her off. And we call that racism. And if you understood how you're hardwiring, so everyone's controlling. Everyone's tribal. Hopefully, you're just tribal in sports and not in ethnicity. But these are hardwired things that people need to understand their tool, what they were born with, why they act that way. But you're right. I mean, dental assistants in Phoenix, they go to school for 9 months and they get massively trained. Hygienists 4 years, dentists 8 years, specialists 9 to 12 years to be
Mm-hmm.
an oral surgeon, and then the office manager is hired off the street no training. And the
Right.
worst thing is the only connection to the outside world is the person answering the phone, and they have no training. How much is a
Yeah.
crown? $1,000. Okay, thank you. Bye. They hang up. They didn't get any contact
Exactly.
information. They weren't trained. And Dennis will tell you, 40,000 reasons why he uses his bonding agent and not another bonding agent. I'll say, by the way,
Right.
what is your new patient call conversion rate of people calling your office that are not patients to actually coming in for a treatment? He's like, what?
They have
What?
no idea.
And
They
then,
have
then
no
every then
idea.
every April, the god of dentistry comes to Scottsdale on Good Friday, and the whole morning he talks about bonding agents. And I say, buddy, is that really your problem that your bonding agents all fail? What, you do fillings, they all fall out? Then you come back in the afternoon and the whole lecture's on wear rates of fillings. So let me get this right. So your whole problem is your fillings fall out, and then the ones that stay in all wear down. I'll say what you can on your website. Think about this. We know that for every 100 people that land on the average dental website, only 3 call the office. For those
Hmm.
3 to call the office, only 1 will come in, and 3 people have to come in before you get 1 to do a filling, because they only have a 1/3 conversion rate on the treatment plan. They only have a 1/3 rate of a new caller conversion to come in. So to get 1 filling done, you need 3 people to come in. For 3 people to come in, 9 had to call. For 9 to call, 900 people had to land on your website. Do you think any of that matters? And they're like, well, Howard, what bonding agent do you use?
It's because it's so far away. It's an area like I've learned with a lot of dentists working at the school, they like to talk about the things that they know. It's comfortable. It's a safe space for them. And so anytime you challenge them, like when you were talking about the business of, hey, do you guys even know like what your overhead is? Do you actually know about all these things? Like it's so far removed. It's such an uncomfortable space. And dentists, I think by nature tend to be more of that perfectionist that really like they can hunker down. They're really good at those things. And so when you ask them these uncomfortable questions, it's like, we're gonna deflect, and we're going to hope that potentially, by deflecting and going back to the bonding agent that we're really comfortable with, it's not actually going to. We're going to be able to continue to cover up the problem. And the reality is, it's not that hard. It's just uncomfortable for a little bit until they learn it, and then they're pros. They can do it. So I love that
Yeah.
because they
And
all go back to it.
and when kids in college tell me, should I go to dental school? I tell them, that if that's your passion, that's what you do. Like dental students will say, should I go to specialty school and be a pediatric dentist? I say, well, there's people like me who, if I had to be a pediatric dentist, I'd find the highest cliff and jump off of it. There's not enough
You'd be playing golf
alcohol.
every day, right?
Yeah, there's
There
not
wouldn't
enough.
be any kids.
Yeah, if I had to be a pediatric dentist or work the night shift at the IHOP, I would work at the night shift at the IHOP and live in a 1-bedroom apartment. But you got to follow your
Ryan's lucky he
passion.
made it. Ryan's real lucky he made it to adulthood, right?
You are right. But the bottom line is, all my multi-millionaire friends that own any one of the franchises, like McDonald's, IHOP. I have a buddy who owns 8 Waffle Houses in the Valley. Their practice management system has all their accounting built in. Only dentistry do they have all their patient information, insurance and billing and account receivables in one pile, and then another software system in QuickBooks Pro. I use Peachtree in another file. So, when my dad owned 9 Sonic drive-ins, his cash register was made by NCR, National Cash Register, that later got swallowed into IBM. His cash register knew more about the overhead when I was 10 than any dentist graduating from Midwestern in 2018. So from 1972 to 2018, we still have Dentrix and Eaglesoft, the 2 main players, and it's not hooked up to accounting, which is why
Right.
after 30 years, I switched to Open Dental, not because they do it,
Hmm.
but at least the CEO, Nathan Sparks, is founded by a dentist, Jordan Sparks. At least he came on the podcast. He's listening. He's on Dental Town. And he says, okay, we don't have that today, but I see what you all need. So maybe
For
in 1
sure.
year, 5 years. But what practice management system do you recommend now? If some kid came out of school, what are you recommending?
I'm open dental 100%.
I
Even though I'm
know.
like a diehard Dentrix love and I'm way smarter and I'm better with Dentrix because I've used it longer, I just recommend Open Dental. It makes more sense. Somebody put it really well. They said it's like Microsoft Word and Excel got together and had a baby, and that's what produced Open Dental. Like, really, it's so easy. It's user friendly. The price point's perfect. And I just think that they understand, they get it. And I agree with you. Like, the fact that they even recognize that those are needs that we have, fantastic. And I mean, just the way that that whole system is built. I mean, all their online training is, they don't have trainers that come in, which is a little frustrating, but they were smart and they have all the videos. So you can pretty much learn everything on the internet, which is what people want. And their price point, you can't beat it. Like, I have an office in Canada that I consult, and they're like, Kiera, what do we do? And I was like, go Open Dental. I know it's not totally built for Canada yet, but that's hands down, Open Dental is where I'm at.
But here's what Open Dental is all about. So he was in Montreal, and he said, well, I need all this in French. And it's like, and Nathan's like, well, dude, it's Open Dental. Go in there and change out all the words to French. Exactly. And that's why it's taken off over countries, because it's open, whereas all the other systems are locked down. But I remember Dentrix invited me to a user convention a couple of years ago, and I thought, really? Have you ever heard one thing I've ever said about your company? And you're inviting me over? So I thought, well, maybe this is an olive branch. They're going to listen. The guy starts out with 85% of the features are never used. So let's talk about all the new features we're coming out with. And he gives this whole spill. And what dentists don't realize is that the 85% of the features you don't use is the biggest problem, because you bring someone in a dental office, they open up a screen with 80 million things to do. It's overwhelmed. But when you go into like Hertz Rent-A-Car and you check out a car, they have a little IPOM, and there's only like 6 things they do. When you return the car, there's only like 6 things they do. When you go to Marriott, it's a function deal. So, I was telling Nathan at Open Dental, the first thing you got to do is you got to set this up so that if a dentist says, look, we don't use all this stuff. We don't want the clutter. We don't want the confusion. We're going to X out, close all this down, and then set up a system. But, Kiera, what I wish you would do, and your amazing buddy, Mark Costas, is Nathan's an open book. I mean, he will come down to Phoenix, and we can meet at Dental Town and have Mark Costas come down, and you come down, or we could all go there and meet them. But we have a long-term partner, and he's hiring like 2 new programmers every month. He's basically hiring all the programmers in his area because I really believe that my homies are smart. I mean, how many people in your town know the difference between geometry and trig? Hell, a dentist, spent 1,000 hours in the library. They know 30, how many ATP come out of the glucose molecule in the Krebs cycle. They're not dumb. If they just don't have a franchisee like you would if you owned a Dairy Queen, which is owned by Warren Buffett, or any of these franchises, the franchise systems are all built in to help them manage. So that's why you see in the dental industry, you see so many consultants. And when you see all these dental consultants, the first thought is, why do all these really smart doctors need all these consultants? Well, there's a structural problem. And the structural problem is their practice management information system has 2 multiple personalities. One's in QuickBooks Pro and one's in Dentrix and EagleSoft. And when I hear a dentist come up to me and say they love Dentrix or they love EagleSoft, I mean, it's just like a kindergartner coming up to me and saying they love ice cream. I mean, okay, you don't realize at the end this is going to give you diabetes, you'll weigh 300 pounds.
It's comfortable, right? It's just comfortable. Yeah. It's what they know, and that's why I think they love it, right? Like, I am so much more savvy in Dentrix when I go into an office because I've used it longer. It doesn't mean I know everything in it, and I think that that's where dentists come from, is it's comfortable, and we don't like change just as human beings. And so, but Open Dental, I agree, like, if they could combine, and because half the problem we struggle with, like Mark and I with all of our clients, the biggest struggle is they don't know their numbers. And so if there is a way to combine, if there's a way to teach the front office, those little pieces, like, dentists are unstoppable at that point, in my opinion, because that's the biggest hang up that they have. They can produce, they know the dentistry, they know how to sell treatment plans. And if they don't, let's work on a few little verbiage things. But beyond that, it's really the front office and those numbers that just hang them up on so many levels.
So if you were born in 46 to 64, you're a baby boomer. I was born in 62. My uncle, my mom's brother, got a job with Mobil Oil in the mailroom when he was 16, and he stayed with him until he's 65.
Wow. That was a good hire.
Generation X is born 65 to 79. Xennials are 75 to 85, and the Generation Y, the Millennials, are 1980 to 1994. But one of the problems with Millennials, actually, you should never start a question like that. That's a negative start. One of One of the interesting attributes of a millennial is that even if you work in Silicon Valley, where they claim to have the nicest work environments at FANG, the stock bubble, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, their average millennial only stays with them 1 to 2 years. And then when you go into dentistry, a lot of dentists on Dental Town saying, well, at these DSOs, they have a lot of turnover with their millennial dentists. They only stay there 1 or 2 years, and I'm like, buddy, it's the same thing in private practice. It's the same thing at Facebook and Apple and Google. And a lot of dentists on Dental Town are thinking, I don't want to hire a damn associate dentist because every time you do, they come in here, they do a bunch of work. They're gone in 2 years, and I have to do all the warranty work for the next 3 or 4 or 5 years for their failed implants and all this stuff. And then the DSOs are asking me, what can they do to keep their associates working longer? And I said, well, if Facebook, Google, and Apple, and Microsoft, and Netflix, and Uber can't figure it out, why are you going to figure it out? So what do you think about the turnover of millennials? And then last but not least, if you're in dental school and you're saying, well, you know what, the perfect panacea for me is I want to get married, have 2 kids, and I'm going to work at a DSO or get a job as associate. Okay, well, that was a great idea. How come everybody that graduated the 5 years before you all quit their job in a year or two? So you got to tell, and then the dental students are brainwashed because the DSOs go in there and tell them that the sky is falling, private practice is dying, that they're going to have half the market. The 50% of the dentists are all going to be working at McDonald's, which is a joke because if you look at corporate dentistry, one of the biggest funders and loaners that was the East West Bank in Charlotte. They quit loaning to DSOs because they've had so many defaults, and not one DSO could do an IPO and go public today because all it is a rollout that buys earnings. They'll buy an office that does $1 million a year for $1 million. Say, look, we grew from 0 to $1 million. Say, now what are you going to do? Oh, we're going to borrow 10 million more, buy 10 more offices. Say, oh, now look, we're at 11. So as they grow their sales, they grow their debt sheet. So as soon as they reach 100 million in sales, they have 100 million in debt, and it's toxic. And their dentists are flipping every 1 to 2 years. Every time they buy out a dental office, the owner dentist only stays for the absolute minimum guarantee he had to stay.
Right.
If they say you have to stay there 3 years, they quit in 3 years and 1 nanosecond. So it looks like private practice is the only thing that's profitable, could go public, and the only thing that's working. Not what shoulda, coulda, or I hoped it ended up this way. The only thing that's really working is private practice.
I'm a huge proponent for private practice. I think once again, I think people, they need to choose what fits best for them, but I agree, like corporate has never been my jam. I agree that people rotate through, and it's because they're not connected to it. Then people ask, well, how do I keep my associates? And my answer to that is, like, I believe partnership, it keeps people tied to you. It helps them invest in it long term. It's kind of like buying a car versus, having a rental car. You drive a rental car terribly because it's not yours. You have zero invested to it. Whereas if you buy it, you're going to have it for the long haul. You tend to take more care of it. You're going to be more invested in it. You're going to put the better gas in it, generally speaking, because you want it to last longer. Same thing buying into those. That's how you keep those associates. That's how you keep them. You can have a trial partnership. And there's so many things that I have on partnerships because I do help a lot of students get jobs. I review a lot of these. Like, I'm all about the students and getting jobs and helping them find it. But I agree with you, like, to the point, I don't think that private practice is the only solution. I think that there are other solutions. However, I think that private practice makes sense. We have so many options out there as a private practice owner. As long as you know your numbers, as long as you're remotely smart within business, I believe that you can do it really, really well. It doesn't even have to be on demographics. I was just talking with Tim McNamara the other day, and he popped up a startup in the middle of the worst place in the Tri-Cities, and he is wildly successful. So I really think it's all about mindsets. And I think so many millennials, one thing that when I was talking to the students at Midwestern that they struggle with is, I think one of our biggest problems, the reason why things aren't working as well now, that people are turning over all the time, is because a lot of millennials, the very first job that they've ever had is being a dentist. They don't know any other job. They don't know what it's like to work in other places. And that's not saying all of them, but a lot of them, the students would tell me, I've never worked in another job. My first job is being a dentist. And so I think that there's this disconnect of I don't want to say hard work because they work really hard, but it's just the understanding. Like, why don't they say Apple? Why don't they say Amazon? Because there's so many other opportunities out there that they're so accustomed to having that I think that long-term commitment is getting lost as we evolve. And so I think getting people to partner in, having a reason for them to stay with you long term, helping them to actually have that long term commitment, even if they don't understand the benefit of it right now, is how people are going to get it, and you're going to keep them. But I do agree that I think corporate has its place to help train a lot of dentists to become even better business owners. But for a long term, I don't think corporate is the solution for most people. So for some, definitely, but for the bulk.
Well, the best advantage of me being my age, 55, is not just that my 4 boys turned into 4 grandchildren, but the fact that when you've been around the sun 55 times, you've seen this rodeo before. When I got out of school, Orthodontic Centers of America was this big rollout, and they got a big $100 million line of credit. They bought 100 offices, doing $1 million each. They made it to the New York Stock Exchange, and it imploded. And there were a dozen on NASDAQ. They're all gone. Nobody survived. And now they're back, and it's the same damn roll-up. It's the same. There's no innovation, and it's headed down the same path, and everybody knows it on Wall Street, which is why you see none of them traded on the NASDAQ. So everyone in Wall Street knows it. I know it. You know it. The only people who don't know it are the ones that own the DSOs. They're the only ones who don't know it.
Well, and I think DSOs have their place. I will say I'm a little bit of a bandwagon follower on the DSO. I see a lot of flaws in it, but I also can see benefits in it as well. I think it's a hype right now. It's kind of to me, DSO feels like the buzzword and the fad for right now going through. And I'm curious to see how long, like you said, how long will it really ride out?
I'll say it in a more positive way, because I don't want to be a negative Nelly. I just want to say that the DSO business model that will work has not been invented yet. But like you said, you promote partnerships like Comfort Dental, Rick Kirshner. He has 350 offices, but every dentist is a partner.
Right.
And that's scary in itself, because when you marry a person, you have sex and babies and share holidays, and that fails 50% of the time. And the loving, kissing, snuggle, baby, grandbabies, vacations, those are all gluing things that make the relationship more sticky and stay together. Now you're marrying a damn dentist that you don't make out with, you don't have kids with, you don't go on vacations with, and then 5 years down the road, he wants to turn into a boutique practice, and you want to turn into a low-cost PPO provider. He wants, and I mean, I've just seen so many. I could just search divorce on Dentaltown. And not only will you find them in threads, but so many of them say that their breakup with their partner was worse than with their spouse. The breakup with their partner legal fees were 3 times the legal fees of breaking up with their spouse that involved children and houses and grandkids. So, I mean, it's tough. But I do think some part of the model has to be, when you're managing humans, it's not what's right and wrong. It's what works. It's like in Arizona, when I'm talking to anybody in Arizona that has a free dental clinic, I say, what's your number one problem? They say, well, half the people don't show up for their appointment because they have no skin in the game.
Exactly.
And then you tell anybody in the government, like if you told Bernie Sanders, well, how about they have to pay $10 out of their pocket to make their free appointment? And they cost $10 to make an appointment. No, it should all be free. Everything's free in Wally World. And it's like, buddy, that doesn't work. What's
the reason for them coming in, right? Like, they can keep it or they don't keep it. It doesn't matter. There's other people that they can go to. That your time's not valuable because you'll just get them in the next time. It's free. There's zero, like you said, zero skin. So what's the consequence? So we don't see them for 6 weeks? Fantastic. Like, what does that really do?
So if I ask the dentist, what stresses you out the most? He never says how to do a crown. He never says that. It's always what stresses him out as most is his employees. Yep. And if it's not his employees, his patients. At the end of the day, what it is the dental schools created this artificial natural selection that you can't get into dental school, med school, or law school unless you get straight A's. So you always get this introvert geek who lived in the library for 4 years, wasn't in a frat, never had a date, never had a hobby, and you watch in every dental office in America, after the dentist gets done working on their patient, when they're done, they get up and they go right to their private office and shut the door and then put lock it. And now this selected librarian Greek that knows the difference between geometry and trig now has to be a leader, has to sell dentistry, has to attract and retain and keep employees for life, attract and retain and keep people for life. And he's like, dude, I hate people. I want to do a physics question problem. How do you work with this group of naturally selected brainiac librarian geniuses who have to switch from physics to people?
It's a solid question. What I tend to do is I play to that. They're brilliant. Dentists are brilliant. They really are. And so it's, if you were able to figure out all these different things, even though you might not like people, they understand that people are what are going to propel them to what they ultimately want. They want to be successful. They want to be profitable. And so I play to that all the time with them of, okay, just look at it as an equation, look at it as a transaction, look at all these different things. And yes, you still have to have feeling and heart to it, which comes later. But if they can start to relate with their patients, and I'm like, literally, if you just give them an expectation and I break it down into steps with them, that becomes manageable. It's not, hey, go be friends with your patients or become best friends with your team. It's literally, let me break it down. These are how you have your team meetings. This is how you interact for a treatment plan presentation. And then offices that I work with, I do have the doctors where like I almost have them do like high fives, where it's that uncomfortable moment to give their team the warm fuzzies at the beginning of the day to kind of look for those compliments, because it's forcing them to utilize a different part of their brain that they're not aware of doing, and then they report back. And so it's really just strengthening a different muscle that they're not used to working, because they're smart. They can get it if they just are pushed to try and do it, and they're given the tools to do so. So I push them, and they don't necessarily love it, but they end up becoming very, very good at it, and they'll master that skill set very quickly if they're willing to try.
And I just tell them also, look at Hollywood. I mean, when you see, who's that guy who played in The Shining, Jack Nicholson, playing in Shining, he's not really a psychopath walking around with a sledgehammer in real life, busting out walls and stuff.
Right.
Kathleen Bates really isn't a lady who, she saw someone wrecked on the side of the road, would start busting their kneecaps with a baseball bat. They're Hollywood. I wrote an article on that, say, you just need to be Doc Hollywood. And,
Right.
So if introverts refuel in by themselves, that they like to refuel by being a recluse, go home quiet, read, have their glass of wine, whatever. But when you show up to work, you can just pretend that
Right.
you're that extrovert basketball coach walking the line. You just got to pretend that you like people and that you like all this stuff, and you have to pretend that you want to shake their hand and give every grandma a hug and a kiss, and you can pretend. So just try to show up at work and say, today I'm going to get an Oscar. And
do it, because the more you do it, it's that first step, right? It's that uncomfortable first step. But once you start doing it and you start playing on that, you start showing up, you start pretending, it becomes so much easier. But doctors get stressed and like, Kiera, it's going to be really uncomfortable, and I don't want to tell my team that they did a great job today, and I don't want to talk to that patient. And I'm like, I am aware that you don't want to, and it's never going to knock on your door and tell you, hey, high five, like today is the day that you're going to feel like you really want to do it. It's not going to be there. You just need to go. You just need to show up, and then it will become more natural. It's working a new muscle. It doesn't feel good to go to the gym the first day, but after you've worked out a few times, it becomes a lot easier.
Really, I've heard that line of bullshit for 55 years, and I still hate working out. I even have 3 Ironmans. I did Arizona Ironman 3 years in a row, and I still hated every mile of the run, the swim, the bike. Oh my God. But anyway, but here's the big problem they have is, again, they'll get their fellowship in the AGD, I did. Their mastership in the AGD, I did. The diplomat in the International Congress, I did. But they take HR, they don't even take it serious. I mean, imagine if the Arizona Cardinals just said, oh, hey, Kiera, we need a quarterback. Would you mind giving it a try? You're like, dude, she's
Absolutely.
100 pounds.
So good.
I don't think we should have a 100-pound girl being the quarterback. And they have full-time HR people. Like at the Arizona Cardinals, there's a guy there who knows everybody playing quarterback in college football. I mean, he knows every person. He knows, and here's a dentist. His dental assistant calls him up and says, my husband's getting transferred. He's in the Marine Corps, and we're shipping out in 2 weeks. So they put ads on Craigslist. One girl shows up on Monday. She's hired. I mean, they take HR. I mean, if I look at my 5 last hires, I mean, I would say they average that maybe we interview like 32 to 50 people. We had a nightmare one where we actually interviewed 51 people and then hired the first one we interviewed.
It happens all the time.
Oh, it happens all the time. I thought of all the wasted time and money. It's like, what was our problem? But the bottom line is, they're never going to have a great team because they don't take HR more serious than how you do a root canal. How do you get them to understand that the only way to win the Super Bowl is you got to get the 50 best players on your team? I mean, you want to be the Cleveland Browns who didn't have a single win last year? What do you think the problem was with the Cleveland Browns? You think it was their facility? Do you think it was their marketing? Do you think it was their Facebook
It was their
page?
grass, the length of grass, definitely.
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns got an A. I mean, I think they have one of the best looking uniforms. They're in a rockin' hot
Right.
city with Cleveland with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, Cleveland did everything right, but one thing: HR. And what does the dentist do? He thinks he's gonna compensate for HR by having a Facebook page.
I think it's important to realize, like, do you want to be the team that has the one all-star where all the chips are on one person, or do you want to have multiple all-stars on your team so you really ramp it up? It's like, if only the dentist is good and that's the only thing you focus on, fantastic, but you can only go as far as you can go solo. If you get your entire team on board, you really do hire those great players, you can go so much further, and it's not as hard for you. So it's kind of that, like, it's a mind shift. It doesn't feel natural. It feels like, don't just work hard, focus on the dentistry, focus on that. It doesn't feel natural, so people tend not to do it. But it's, like you said, if they can reverse it around or do the reverse engineering, really hire well, get the right people around them, it's going to be easy for them, and they're going to be more profitable and more successful. But it's just that mind shift of changing that.
I always tell dentists, when their business is going south, they say, well, you know what? I need to learn how to place implants. I'm like, okay, dude, you graduated $350,000 student loans. This is what you're going to do. You're going to dig yourself a deep hole. You're going to buy $100,000 CBCT. You're going to buy, $50,000 of training and education all the way to Dominican Republic with a Rune Guard. You're going to buy a system and a kit. You'll probably be $200,000 in debt before you do your first implant for $1,000. But I tell them, they say they're going to get into lasers. Well, okay, those lasers are $75,000 to $150,000. I tell everybody that the number one return on investment in dentistry is always a dental consultant. Everybody I know that does $2 to $5 million a year, you say, well, did you ever use a dental consultant? I go, dude, I've used probably every dental consultant that's ever done work in Lafayette, Louisiana, my entire life. And I'll say, why did you use every one? They say, well, I've never hired a consultant that didn't come in, get the team, train with a new skill, something different. Maybe it was the hygiene, maybe it was something. And whatever I paid them, I got that money back. I mean, let's say it was like X thousand a month. Well, starting the next month, I collected more than that, and then more. And I tell every dentist when they say, well, should I buy a laser or a CEREC machine? Really? Really, a CEREC machine? And your house? I mean, when your house is on fire, you don't go buy a new couch and start looking at new furniture. Your freaking house is on fire.
Right.
Let's get the house not on fire, and then we can redecorate it with CAD cam and lasers and all this like that. But I mean, wow. In fact, I tell consultants, if I was a dental consultant, if you hired me, I give you some shiny machine with a bunch of buttons and lights on it and an antenna and a Bluetooth connection, because they just want to buy shiny objects. They don't.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because they're embarrassed that they're a doctor, they walk on water, and I do not want Kiera to come in here and realize my house is crazy? Do you think it's that? Do you think it's pride? Or do you just think they don't understand investments and return on investments, and that they pay their bills monthly, and you need to get that money back with a return on investment monthly, and the only thing that's guaranteed to do that is consultants, not CAD cams?
Gosh, I think it's a little bit of both, but more than that, I think it's kind of like the diet pill syndrome. They think that buying the next big thing or going to the next implant is what's going to create. They think it's going to be easier work for them. It's something that they're interested in. They know bringing in a consultant means change. It means that they're going to have to work hard. We're going to be working on your verbiage. We're going to be changing certain things in your office. We're going to be fine tuning. And I think there is a vulnerability piece of when a consultant comes in, we expose some of those things that you don't necessarily want exposed, right? But I think the real question is, what do you want? What is your end game? Do you want to grow exponentially, or do you want to try all the magic diet pills of CEREC and implants and this root canal system and all these different things? Do you want to try that route and keep trying different ones and keep spending money after money, or Do you want to put in a little bit of hard work that's going to produce the money so you can buy all those different objects and actually implement them and get the ROI? I think it's just a mind change of they're just trying to look for those magic diet pills. They're looking for the easiest path of resistance, which human beings do. We all want the easiest path. So they're thinking if I just throw money, dentists love to throw money. They make a lot of money. So they just keep thinking if they buy the most expensive thing, then they're going to get there. And same thing with consultants. Sometimes the highest paid consultant's not going to benefit you with the best results as a lower paid consultant. It just depends. And I think it's more the diet pill syndrome of wanting the easiest path with the highest results. We all want that. But more than anything, I think bring in somebody who can see beyond you, who has a bird's eye view, who's not emotionally attached to you, that's going to give you the honest feedback. A CEREC machine's not going to do that for you. It's going to give you a great new fun thing to learn, but it's not going to tell you how to fix your office and actually make it efficient.
Yeah, and all those hours of learning, because when you buy a CEREC machine or a E4D from Plan Mecca out of Helsinki, Finland, I mean, it's like buying a grand piano. Mm-hmm. It's going to take you 1,000 hours to learn how to play Beethoven.
I think, though, that there is a pride piece to it, Howard. I really do. I think you telling your buddies that you just bought this CEREC machine or you just bought this or you're doing this implant, I think it feels good. It's like locker room talk that people like to share with each other because it makes you have a status. Whereas, like, I brought in a consultant, it's like, ooh, you have problems. You had to bring in a consultant. I think so. There's a stigma of how they are as well.
Kind of like a marriage counselor.
Right,
going to a marriage counselor to try to save your marriage, and all your friends are like, "Oh man, you must have problems." It's like, well, probably all the people that got divorced never went to a marriage counselor.
Right, exactly. I think it's locker room talk. It feels good to share all those numbers. Like Mark says, one of Mark's favorite quotes that he says is, production feeds the ego, collections feed the family. But it feels good to tell everyone, like, I can produce this much, and I can do these things, and I can afford to buy this, and I'm going on this trip, and I'm doing this CE. When the reality is, those aren't the big problems, and those aren't really the issues. But those aren't fun to say, like, well, really my problem was that I didn't do route slips, or I'm really bad with my verbiage with treatment planning. That's not flashy or fun to express. So I really do think it's the locker room talk, and there is a little bit of pride and ego. None of us like to be exposed to our vulnerable areas.
The other ego thing they love is they have $1 million practice. They collected $1 million. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you. You know what the sweet spot is for bankruptcy in dentistry? Is between the $1 and $3 million mark. Because when you're doing $750,000, you can have an insane supply ordering system, insane payroll, but you can kind of make it. But by the time you get to 2 or 3 locations, that little dysfunctional Doberman pincher is now a Tyrannosaurus Rex and takes you down. I cannot tell you how many dental offices do $1 million a year and the doctor nets like $180 versus how many dentists do $750 a year and take home $250. So It's ego that says, I want to collect $1 million, but you say, well, do you realize that you take 12 different PPOs and 4 of them you lose money on every single patient? So you just like doing dentistry for free. Yeah. I love that Costas quote. Production is for ego. Production
feeds your family.
Is for ego, and collection
feeds the family.
Feeds your family. And the golfers always say, you drive for show and you putt for dough. Everybody goes to the range and gets their big driver out and tells everybody, there you go, man, I was hitting 300 yards.
Right.
Yeah, dude, and they were in the next fairway.
But it feels good. It feels good to say those numbers. It feels good to say. I mean, people talk, like when students are coming to me and saying, Kiera, what job should I take? I'm always like, pay attention. You're looking for that 35% adjusted production that they're offering. But of what? You might get an offer of 28% adjusted production of a practice that is producing and skyrocketing, but it's a lower percentage, or you're getting the 35% of the practice producing what, $50,000 a month? High five, you lost. Like, you took the worst deal. But we're all about this comparison, and we all want it to feel so good of I'm a rock star. I can produce this much, because that's the only thing that's an equal comparative. And so if you can get past that and you can drop your ego and you can lower your pride and you can see it for what it really is, then I think you're able to actually make the changes. I mean, I have a friend, he's got a way small practice. He freaking kills it. His overhead is 47% and he produces $150 a month. Like, he's crushing it out there, and his life is not that hard.
Can I marry him?
You should. He's a pretty awesome guy.
When I sell my dental office, I'm only selling it if it's a woman. For once in my life, I want to get $1 million check from a woman.
Feels good.
Yeah, I'm tired of paying them when they leave millions. I want one woman on earth before I die to write me a check for $1 million. If they want help, what is your website? I mean, you got Dental Masters Now. You have Kiera dentalconsulting.com. You have a lot of websites.
I do.
What is the website that my homies should be finding you on today?
I think the easiest one, Kiera's Dental Consulting, that's going to kind of encompass them all, or Dental Placement Pros. Dental Placement Pros is if you're looking for jobs and help. Kiera's Dental Consulting, if you're looking for consulting, we can talk about office management help, practice acquisition, you name it. If you want women dentists, if you want to have that one-on-one consulting with a female dentist, just shoot them over to Kiera's Dental Consulting. Any of these, really come on over to Kiera's Dental Consulting, and I can help you with whatever. I purposely stopped working with a very successful practice because I felt like being tied to one office meant that I could not help as many people. My goal is to help in whatever way I can, and that's why we've created the companies we have. So,
well, how should they contact you? Should they go to Kiera, which is Kie, I before E, but after I before E, so Kieras, Kiera's Dental Consulting.com, or they could go to dentalplacementpros.com, or they could go to becomingdentalmasters.com.
that one's actually it's Dental Masters Now. I apologize, you have the wrong one for that. Dental Masters Now. We wanted it to be more affirmative. So Dental Masters Now. That's for the OM.
Right on, and then you have Dental Placement Pro. What's that all about? That's looking for. Is that an old guy like me looking for an associate, or an associate looking for a job?
Either one. It's a match. It's kind of like matchmaking. Yep. So it's a recruiting site. Or if you're not even an associate, you just need help with front office or back office or team players, we hire for them. And then we have our Women Dentists Connect is the one specifically for women dentists.
Well, if you see someone register on that, and their name is Hawini Farran. It's.
I'll know who it was. I'll know exactly who it was.
A girl. But final question: you worked at Phoenix has two amazing dental schools, Midwestern and Glendale, which you worked at, and AT Stella Mesa. You worked there 3 years. How did you? What happened to your journey to go from Glendale to Reno?
So my husband, he was in pharmacy school there, and I am always been entrepreneurial minded. And I found out of all the schools he got accepted to that Midwestern offered a spouse discount. So I definitely worked so hard, and I was super lucky to get a job at Midwestern in their dental college. And then my husband got, so I got a discount on his tuition, worked at the dental college, which was fantastic. I met over 600 dentists while I was there. So super fun, helped teach radiology, loved Dr. Smith, all of them. And then my husband took a residency in Reno, and he now works at a hospital out there. And I ended up going and working with one of the grads from Midwestern. We opened a couple practices, had some great success, and then I decided to start consulting after that. So that's how we're now in Reno.
So out of 600 students that you met over the 3 years, was Richard Lowe your favorite student?
Absolutely. No, Richard Lowe is brilliant. Like Richard Lowe just has me. He is so brilliant. It's incredible. Like I could just sit and listen to him all the time. I'm like, Richard, how do you know all of this stuff? And he's so giving and so kind. He's fantastic.
Yeah, and what's amazing is when I first met him when he was an undergrad, he was already an old soul. I mean, he was already mature, married with a kid, knew all of life's lessons. I'm like, dude, when you talk, you should be like 78 years old. Why are you just a baby? And you've been on his show.
I have,
his podcast. Mm-hmm. And all right, well, I'll tell you what. Thank you for all that you do for dentistry. Thank you so much for coming on the show. The only reason my show is a success is because I'm able to get people like you to come on the show. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope you have a rocking hot day.
Thank you so much. I really, like I told you, I feel like it's stardom. Like I hear all about you, so it's been really fun. So thank you so much, and for all you're doing as well. I appreciate it.